So it is looking like in this summer transfer window, quite a few managers in the Premier League could well be moving around, and quite a few of them might not might not see next season in the roles they're currently in. So we've had the news this week that Iraola will be leaving Bournemouth at the end of the season. He's been there a couple of seasons now, but he's taken them from one place to another. Really, it's a case of they were surviving, mid-table comfortably for a while, but he's taken them to the next level and got them for the last couple of seasons as a genuine challenger for Europe, and they're well in the race for a European spot coming into the remainder of the season at the moment. So whether he leaves the club, having got them in Europe or not, it's going to be very close. It just all depends on the last set of games. But whatever happens with them now, he's done he's had a very, very successful time at Bournemouth, and having to deal with losing a lot of players as well. Their entire back line pretty much was sold last summer, but he always seems to have found a way to deal with that and improve them, even when the circumstances haven't suited it either. So he's strongly linked with the Real Madrid job. Also, the Newcastle job's one that's been mentioned. The Man United job as well. He's not really linked with the Chelsea job. It doesn't really seem like someone we're looking at the moment, but I think he will go somewhere else. It's obviously he's looking to take the next step, announcing he's leaving. So I think Real Madrid job's a strong possibility. They sacked Alonso earlier in the season. The interim manager they got in charge right now, I don't think will be in charge for next season, especially with the way the recent results has turned out. That he's not really done anything there to convince them that he's the long-term solution, I don't think. So it could well be a case that he goes there. Although they're also linked with Jose Mourinho as well, and there's also talks about Newcastle maybe going in for him as well, which, funny enough, they were looking at him originally when these new owners come in and they were looking for the manager. He was one of the managers that was on the shortlist or one of the front runners or whatever, but ended up going for Eddie Howe in the end. And while Newcastle obviously had a poor season, it would be a drastic thing to do, sacking Eddie Howe, seeing as he's the man who's got them into the Champions League twice in the 4 or so years he's been there, 4 to 5 years he's been there, and has also got them their first trophy in 60 odd years as well, that League Cup last year. So it would feel in some ways harsh based on one bad season, because if they'd performed a bit better this season, I think there wouldn't be these questions being asked of him. But then there is an argument as well: has he taken them as far as he can? Are they now? Do they now need to get someone else in to take the next step? Is that Iraola? Is that Mourinho? I don't know. Which way they would go, because both of those two are so different that just so different. I'm really not sure what way they would go with that. But also Real Madrid linked with those two managers as well, and if they want, the chances are they'll probably get the manager they want. That's usually how it works with them. And I know Jurgen Klopp's also linked with that job. It looked at one point like he was going there early in the season, but I know he's got that other behind the scenes role at Salzburg, I think it is as well, Klopp. So I'm not even sure he wouldn't want another Premier League job. He pretty much already said that. As a Liverpool, we would never manage anyone else in the Premier League. And I'm not actually particularly sure he wants a club job either. I think if he does take on a football managing role at any point soon, I think it's most likely to be the German national team, which leads us on nicely to Man United, because one of their front runners to get the job, if they had to not stick with Carrick, is the German national team's current manager, Julian Nagelsmann. Now, Nagelsmann's a very interesting manager. He's still a very young manager as well, but it feels like he's been around for a long time, because when he was first at Bayern Munich, I can't remember where he was before that, but it was somewhere else in Germany. I think it was one of the clubs that are in and amongst the European race. So Stuttgart, I think it could have been, was it Stuttgart? Not 100% sure, but either way, he has been someone who's been around for quite a while. When his time at Bayern Munich, his first season was, what they would expect, won the league. Second season, it was not going so well. It was in that title race with Dortmund. They sacked him and that was when they brought in Thomas Tuchel. Then he was brought in just before the last Euros, Julian Nagelsmann, to turn Germany's form around when something really wasn't going well under Hansi Flick. And they brought Nagelsmann in, and he really did get him going. He really did turn it around. And going into that Euros, they was in a much better place, and they was unlucky not to have gone on further and maybe even won it. They had some misfortune against Spain in the quarter-final. And up to that point, those two have been the best in the tournament. So, and Germany could well have gone on and won it if they had won that game. But since then, they haven't performed great since then, Germany. They don't have maybe the squad that they used to have. You just still can never write them off in the World Cup. But I think a lot with Nagelsmann now depends on how Germany perform at the World Cup, really, whether he stays or not. Because Didier Deschamps, he's one of the front runners to get the Real Madrid job as well. So again, whatever happens with France, I think it could be the case that he's ready to move on from that role after this World Cup. Whereas Nagelsmann, I'm not so sure. He's a bit earlier on in that stage of Germany. I think he could be. It could be a case that he depends. I think it just depends. I think if they do well, I think he's more likely to stay. But I think if they don't perform at this World Cup to a level that they would expect Germany, I think then they would then look at maybe moving on. I think it was Leipzig actually he was at before. Yeah, it was Leipzig he was at before Bayern. That's right. Yeah, but certainly someone who he was actually linked with the Chelsea job at one point before Pochettino come in, but we don't seem like we're particularly keen on him now. I'll get to us and the managers we're linked with in a minute. But Real Madrid, I don't know why it seems to be shaping up quite likely that one of Mourinho and Iraola could well be the ones that maybe go for the Newcastle job. And if Deschamps does leave France, I think the Real Madrid job is set up nicely for him. So as for what I was saying about Nagelsmann, he's strongly linked with the Man United job, and I know Glasner was right up there as well in the mix, but then he kind of almost talked himself out of it with his comments at Crystal Palace. He's leaving Crystal Palace, so I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going back to Germany, though. To be honest, I think he might have almost talked himself out of the Premier League jobs, because we were someone who was linked quite strongly with him as well. And although he's still one of the front runners for the Chelsea job, I'm not sure they would go for. Well, his owners won't go for someone like that. I don't think, because they don't want anyone who speaks out against them at all. I think that someone like that would be their worst nightmare, to be honest. But so Man United job, I think again they'll finish this season in like third, fourth, whatever. They'll comfortably get top four now. I have no doubt qualify for the Champions League. Maybe it depends how strong they finish and how convincing it is whether Carrick gets a job or not. I've heard some people saying that maybe they will sort of almost keep him on, leave it as it is now, keep him on as like an interim, and then just if it goes wrong, bring someone else in. I'm not sure they can do that. I don't think they can go into the season with that uncertainty. They've got to have some certainty. It's either he's the permanent manager or he's gone and they get someone else in. I don't think they can carry on as they are now. I just don't see that being possible, to be honest. Because I think if that was the case, I think if they have that confidence in him to give him the permanent job, I could understand why. Because I know every time they've had the odd poorer result in the really good run he's taken them on, people have asked questions. People have said, well, in a longer season, well, in a different next season, they'll be in Champions League. There'll be a lot more games. There'll be a lot more questions asked. Full season, he might not be able to hack it the same way. But equally, I think he really has proven himself in this role a lot more than people thought he would. And I think he's got to put the strongest case possible he could have put forward to get the permanent job, because they weren't considering him when they hired him as the interim manager in January. So I think the amount of players he's improved and just brought back to life that just look completely finished under Almerin and under Ten Hag as well, in fact. So I think it's possible he gets his permanent job. But again, I think either way, if he does get it, then there's all that pressure on him. But if they do get rid of him, then they've made a big call, because they've got rid of someone who has actually done well this season. Then it almost adds a lot more pressure on whoever the next manager is, Iraola, whoever they decide to go for. So it's a difficult decision, I think, they're going to have to make there, Man United. And I think Carrick, out of all the sort of managers we've discussed, all the clubs that are linked, I think he's actually most likely to say, I think he's more likely to be at Man United than Eddie Howe is to be at Newcastle, and especially Vizinha is to be at Chelsea, and any of the other ones we discussed. I don't necessarily think he does stay, but I think he could. I wouldn't be surprised at this stage. I wouldn't be surprised if they did keep him on. There are questions being asked though, so I think that one could go either way still with Carrick. It's hard to say, and I thought that for quite a while actually. As soon as he started turning around, I thought they're going to have a big decision to make in the summer, and it's coming around now, so we'll see what they end up doing there, Man United, with that. But quickly on Liverpool, because I think I'm quite confident I know what's going to happen with Liverpool. in terms of their manager. I think Slot leaves at the end of the year. I don't think they stick with him beyond this season. I know that it may seem a bit harsh. He's had 2 years, one of them won the league, but the performances have been so below bar this season that I think that they might make a big decision here, and especially with Xabi Alonso being out of a job. Recent job at Bayern Munich didn't go to plan, but he did so well at Leverkusen that he's already got some credit in the bank. I think, and he's got the link with the club as well. I think if Alonso goes anywhere, it'll be Liverpool. I can't see anyone else having a look in really with him. I think Liverpool job set up for him nicely, and I don't think Liverpool will go down the route of going for someone like Gerrard or even someone more up and coming like Iraola. I think they would go for someone like Alonso. I think that just seems like the ideal thing to do for them, seeing as he's proven himself at Leverkusen and he's already got the connection with the club. I think he would jump at the chance to manage Liverpool. I think they would jump at the chance to have him in charge. I think I could see that happening. If Slot does go, I think Xabi Alonso surely is going to be the next Liverpool manager. I really think that. I know Vincent Kompany is someone who's been mentioned for that role. If he does move on from Bayern, he might not necessarily move on. Like Luis Enrique at PSG. Like those clubs are doing so well at the moment. It's not given those managers want to move on. But if they did sort of want the Premier League job, those two may be linked with the City job as well. If Guardiola leaves, I think Kompany is available. He would go to, and I think that's the City job. I think it's the one for him. Obviously, I think if there's a chance for him to go to Man City, with his how much of a legend he is at that club, that'll be where he goes. But if Kompany's not available, Guardiola does move on, I think that role's set up for Maresca. Seeing as he used to work under Guardiola, that's just been the thing all along. I mean, the only other thing I will mention, this is something I'm not sure about. It's not really been spoken about. But if Arsenal don't win the league, or if Arsenal leave this season without a trophy, it's time up for Arteta, and could that have a major sort of impact on things as well, possibly. But I think we're going to have to sort of play it by ear with that one, because I think that comes down to whether Arsenal win the league or not. Because he won't go if Arsenal win the league. I highly doubt. But if he doesn't, then there's an argument that okay, he's done all he can with this lot, and that, well, they need something new, maybe. But to have not if they don't win it from this position. But yeah, now on Chelsea. Now we'll finish on my club, Chelsea. Rosigne surely can't be in charge come the next season. I wouldn't put anything past our owners, but surely this car crash can't carry on. Like, we're playing Man United tomorrow. I think we'll lose there, and I think that surely. I say this every week, but surely that'll be the last of him. Now, when he was first appointed, I wasn't as against it as a lot of people were. A lot of people were really against it, saying, "Well, they sacked Maresca, and they're all and Rosigne's definitely wasn't a step up, and it's proved to be a massive step backwards. We wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. We'd be better under Maresca." And I understand that things happen behind the scenes. Some stuff was said, and there's been comments he's allegedly made about wanting the Man City job, which really haven't gone down well, rightly so. I wasn't a massive fan of Maresca. I've got to be honest. But I have a lot of appreciation for what he'd done at the club, and I won't, he's taken the club forward, and I won't forget that, and I'll always hold him in high regard for that because of the trophies he won for us as well. So I'm not trying to discredit that at all, but I do think at times his in-game management was really poor. I think he took too long to make substitutions. I think he worked too hard to keep certain players happy, and then didn't utilise other players. And I think the systems he played at times was very much just. It's the same under Rosigne, but it's very much possession based, and it didn't get the best out of some of our players. Players like Neto in particular, I felt were so restricted under Maresca, and I think it's excellent knockout tournament, and I think it could suit Man City. But I think when it comes to us, week in, week out in the Premier League season, I think it was being proven to be exposed quite a bit. So I understand why they made the change, but I think they had to do something different. I don't think Rosigne wasn't the choice, and it's proven to be that. Although, like I say, so many people were against it from the start. I wasn't as against it. I thought, okay, it's someone who he didn't cost us anything as well. He was already at Strasbourg, who we've got the partnership with, and I actually thought he was quite good at Hull as well. So I wasn't against it, but I knew it was a massive risk, and I think as in the first sort of month or so, it has proven 3 games against Arsenal, 3 defeats, and that that game against Burnley where he made terrible decisions and all of that, and I think then those games just started to build up and up till we've got to the point where we're at now, where we can't even score a goal and we're getting battered every week. And looking like we might not even qualify for Europe, and we're highly doubtful we'll qualify for the Champions League. And I think that, and there's different reports coming out of us. If some saying, he's not necessarily under threat if we don't qualify for the Champions League, but there's some saying as well, no, like Champions League qualifications are must. It's hard to say, and you never know what these owners are going to do. But I think if he does go, clear front runner for the job, I think it will be Felipe Luis. Someone who's got a connection with Chelsea, used to play for us, maybe someone who was sold too soon as well by the club. Very good footballer. But his time at Flamengo is interesting because they've always done well. Their league system in Brazil works a bit different to ours, obviously. But they've always been, he's always had them as one of the front runners in their league. And then Club World Cup performance was particularly impressive last year, beating us, and then also got to round 16 and then was really unlucky against Bayern Munich, pushed them to a 4-2 defeat in that. So impressive performances, and it's hard to say with this, like how it goes, because again, there's an argument that are we taking a similar sort of risk with him? Yeah, I think possibly, but I do think there is something there because we see those performances with Flamengo, which there is a lot of pressure on teams in that league to perform, and the Club World Cup proven that he had something about him as well as a manager, some of a connection to the club as well. It's a risk, but could be one worth taking. But I understand the argument that people will say, well, he's not managed in Europe. How can we do something like that with the position we're in right now? But I do really like the limited sort of what I've seen, the limited footage of what I've seen of his Flamengo side before he left earlier in the year. I liked he was there for, I think, 2 years as a manager. I think he was there. And I think part of the reason he left was could have had something to do, I think, with the links to the Chelsea job. So could well be that I think if we do get rid of Vizinho, that'll be who gets the job, which I wouldn't be against. There is obviously question marks, but a lot of players come from Brazil, hit the ground running in the Premier League straight away. Why can't a manager? It's very different, but it's not really something we've seen that much of, so it could go one or two ways. Personally, my choice, if we was to get rid of Vizinho, the manager I want is Xavi Hernandez. That's who I'll go for, without a doubt. Realistic managers available right now, that's who I'll go for. I'd really like to see what he could do in the Premier League. If he wants to come to the Premier League, I think Chelsea would be a really good role for him. I think if you look at his Barcelona side of, it's 2 years ago he left, I think, Hansi Flick, since he's gone there, although they've got more attacking threat now, and much more kind of quality of attack, I felt like the side they had under Xavi was very tight, very hard to beat. And when he come in, they weren't in a good place. Late 2021, I think he was brought in, and they not in a good place at all. But he turned it around quite quickly. The following season, they win the league, in some style as well, and they were a lot harder to beat than this particular team we see now. Hansi Flick, for some reason, a manager I really like as well, Hansi Flick, but for some reason he seems to have changed his approach slightly at Barcelona, whether it's because of the players they've got or not, but he seems to play such a high line there, and I spoke about this a lot, how Barcelona just seems so exposed all season despite their attacking quality, and they've come unstuck in the Champions League recently for that. So, that's something that I think is worth considering, the fact that Barcelona were actually a lot harder to beat under Xavi. I really would like to see what he could do. His first job he obviously had that connection with Barcelona, but he come into that role, so much pressure on him to turn that around because they were having some bad years, Barcelona. He was the manager that finally got them that league title again. So I think if you want someone, you want the top proven winner as both someone who he is a winner. He won everything in his career, and now as a manager, he's already won that trophy as well behind him. So I think if they do want to go for someone if people do want someone who's proven winner, I think Xavi is a very good option. I'd love Cesc Fabregas as well. Cesc Fabregas would be a good option, seeing as he's done so well at Como, but I think Como looked good to qualify for the Champions League this year through Serie A, so I think that's less likely actually that he would come to us. So it's not that I don't think he'd want to come to Chelsea, but I think he's early on in his career, and I think the sensible thing for him would be to stay at Como right now. So I think the next Chelsea manager very likely to be Felipe Luis, but if I had it my way, it would be Xavi Hernandez for sure. And a lot more change could happen. I think I've got an idea of what Liverpool are going to do. Man United could go one or two ways. Same, to be honest, with Newcastle. Real Madrid will get a new manager, but again, that could depend on other teams, even the World Cup with France maybe. So we'll see what happens with the chance potentially going this. We'll see what happens there. But one thing's for sure, there will be a lot of managers moving around. A lot of teams will be starting next season, I think, with a new manager. So this is going to be a very, very interesting time. So we'll see how this all pans out.